Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first Zoom webinar of the new year. I'm Elise Ingber, Director of Cultural Arts at the Jacobson JCC, and we're so pleased to partner with Temple Beth Sholom. They're really just one of the loveliest and smartest temples I know, with the best people in it. So a Shana Tova to all, with best wishes for happiness, laughter, and good health for all. We're on a Zoom webinar. The difference is it's a lot like regular Zoom, where you see the tiny boxes, but on webinar, you're only going to see the speaker who's highlighted. At least that's our plan. That's where the focus should lie on Youssef. However, it's still interactive. I want to hear from you. So does Youssef, so does Wendy. So if you're familiar with Zooming at all, you still have access to a chat function at the bottom. Use that and we'll be able to interact with you and ask Youssef some questions. Both Wendy and I will handle those questions and you can engage with him. I think this is a wonderful opportunity, a little different than if we were in person. Coming up at the JCC, I'm excited because we have very different change of subject, Youssef. We have Steve Madden. If you know the shoes and you know his clothes, he wrote a memoir called The Cobbler. He's coming to the JCC virtually with Rosanna Scotto, who's a news anchor from New York, Channel 5 News. We're excited. That's going to be in October. And in 2 days, another totally different pivot. I've got Joan London coming. For anybody growing up here in New York, you knew Joan London on ABC, Good Morning America. It's going to be a really interesting program. That's daytime. Stephen Madden is nighttime, and you could sign up through the JCC. So following our program today, I'm going to stop talking. Hallelujah. And Wendy and I are going to answer Youssef questions so we can make it interactive. So please consider buying his book. I'll remind you of it. I have it right here. It's amazing. The Words of My Father. I'll type it in the Zoom box. We want to support our authors. They spend their time and effort. Let's support them and appreciate them in Jewish Book Council for bringing them to us. So thank you to Wendy and Youssef for making this happen, to the people on my committee, to our sponsors, to anyone I've ever said hello to. Let's just give a thank you to them. And Wendy, you're on.
Thank you. I'd just like to take a moment to thank Elise Ingber of the Sid Jacobson JCC. Elise works tirelessly to ensure that this partnership between the JCC, the Jewish Book Council, and the Sisterhood of Temple Beth Sholom is successful and enlightening. This partnership has allowed us to welcome many great authors and thinkers into our community. Some who have made us laugh, some who have made us cry, and many that have made us think. This evening, we welcome Yousef Bashir, a Palestinian American from the Gaza Strip and the son of Khalil Bashir, a highly respected educator. Still suffering from the effects of a near catastrophic injury at the hands of an IDF soldier, Youssef made his way to the United States, where he's earned a bachelor's in international affairs from Northeastern University and a master's in coexistence and conflict from Brandeis University. Now living in Washington, D.C., he has worked on Capitol Hill and served as a member of the Palestinian diplomatic delegation to the United States. Mr. Bashir is an accomplished author, a vigorous advocate of Israeli-Palestinian peace, and a much sought-after public speaker. Amid the tragedy of the ongoing Middle Eastern conflict, The Words of My Father is both a powerful tale of moral awakening and a story of ferocious and profound love between a son and his father. With conviction and humanity, Yousef Bashir delivers a powerful reminder that compassion and forgiveness are uncommon gifts and are ours to choose. On a personal note, if you haven't yet had the chance to read The Words of My Father, you must. It stirs so many emotions and forces the reader to truly think about the Middle Eastern conflict and the effect that it has on all of the people that live it every day. It is with great pleasure that I now introduce Yousef Bashir.
Hello, everybody, and good evening to all of you. And if I might add, currently I actually work at the S. Daniel Abraham Center for Middle East Peace. I've been there since December now. It's been great to be there. Some of you might be interested in checking it out. We do good work. But tonight I am excited to be with you to talk to you a little bit about my book, The Words of My Father, Love and Pain in Palestine. I was going through the website of Sid Jacobson, and I was very much attracted by your principles as a community, with the principles for caring, respect, and pride. Now I won't be surprised if we are our principles apply to different things, but if I dig deeper, and if we all dig deeper, they will be very much similar to one another. And there is caring and respect and pride in the Quran, which is the book that I follow. But even in the Quran, it says, we could have made you into nations and tribes so that you get to know one another. It's the beauty of life, I believe, and this is something I've learned in Gaza, is the diversity of perspectives, backgrounds, and beliefs. It just makes our lives as human beings even richer. My story began in 2000. I lived in a house that was right next to the Israeli settlement of Kfar Darom. The house was made of 3 floors, a 3-story house, a big house not far from the beach, on a farm. My family sold tomatoes, vegetables that went pretty much every day to markets in Israel, Jordan, and Egypt. And in addition to that, my incredible father, he passionately taught English to young students, high school, and he taught English literature. He loved his land, our land. He came from nowhere else but from Deir al-Balah in the middle of Gaza Strip, which was right next to Kfar Darom, the former settlement of Kfar Darom. We were pretty much separated from the settlers by the highway, one of the main highways, the only highway that went through the entire strip. And until 2000s, the 2002 Intifada started. By that time, and because of some events that unfolded between the settlers and my family, the soldiers ended up building a base that was located right behind our house on our side. So in the morning, I woke up. When I wake up every morning as a child, I see soldiers, cleaning their guns, putting on their helmets, getting ready to go to work, if you will. And we were doing the same thing. We get up, do our chores. If it's school, then we go to school. If it's farm, we go and we help the people who are working with us. So always there's movement in, movement out, but everything was going smoothly. I knew there were soldiers, but the soldiers were not shooting at my family. And growing up in that environment of love and family and unity, I just couldn't realize that I was actually, in fact, living in a war zone. And that came to life in 2000, in September, when the Second Intifada broke out between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And that would be my first introduction to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And it wasn't something that I came to understand or experience because of a report on TV or someone telling me their point of view, being with their own agendas and bias. It was unfolding or about to unfold right in the middle of my house, where I have my father, my incredible mother, my incredible family, and then I have the soldiers who are now asking my dad to pack up your bags and leave. To which my father responded and said, if it's not safe for my children in their home, then I can't imagine it being safe for them anywhere else. and I have been a good neighbor to you. I teach my children peace and coexistence, and therefore I'm insulted that you are asking me to leave. So to make the long story short, the soldiers leave, but they come back in a bit more soldiers with more equipments. And as if we were in there, they took over the second floor, the third floor, installed cameras, guns on each corner of the house, camouflages, and came down when they were done and said, from now on, no one is allowed upstairs. To which my dad responded with surprising and frustrating enthusiasm. And he said, until when will you be my guests? As if a soldier who just comes in and takes over your house as if you weren't there is still can be regarded as a guest. But I think, and throughout the book, I come to understand what my father was very much trying to ensure that his children were not going to be affected by the violence that was about to unfold. And the story took off from there. Every day they came downstairs, moved their entire family to sleep in the living room. To go to the bathroom, you have to get an okay from the soldier to come home late. The soldier had to, if you're watching a soccer game, the soldier had to, okay. So for me as a teenager at the time, it wasn't just my mom and my dad who I had to deal with. It was also my mom and my dad and a soldier standing at the door of the living room. And that was a frustrating way to live. I mean, I knew them even at that age. I was 11 years old, 12 years old, 13, 14, and this would last until 2005. Throughout that experience, they demolished the greenhouses. They would shoot at the house every day. They would come up with ways and rules to make my dad give up and leave the house. The only people who were allowed into the house, who were able to get permissions from the soldiers, were the press. And I saw soldiers at night, press during the day. My dad is fluent in English and he's got very passionate about his message, and he would, relentlessly advocate for peace, knowing that he is about to go back to his own living room and stay there and be locked in his living room for God knows how long. Sometimes they kept us in the living room for days. The longest they've ever kept us there was for 2 straight weeks. There was military operations, but nevertheless, for him, for his children, that was the reality. And I became in conflict, not with the soldiers, but with my father, because he, the best representation or representative of the state of Israel, the Jewish people as a whole at the time, was not the soldiers, it was not the settlers, it was my father. He would insist on reminding us of the concept of the children of Abraham. They are no strangers. They are supposed to be with us. We are supposed to find a way to live with them. And he would never say that they are the enemy, even if their actions appear to suggest to me or any normal person out there that they are acting in no friendly behavior. And that's pretty much what shapes my life. In 2004 and 2002, I thought I lost him when the soldiers shot at his bedroom and injured him. He was injured in the back of his head, and it was 2002, mid-year, and despite all the fights with him, I thought that the concept of losing someone was introduced to me thanks to that experience. But he survived, and even when he survived, we all thought that this is it. But he didn't change. He didn't lose his smile and said, "What happened to me last night makes me believe even more in peace." And there I had to make a stand and ask him how and why. And he said, one day you'll understand. And that day came on February 18, 2004. Unforgettable. Unforgettable because it's a week after I had just turned 15. I was born on February 9th, and now we're talking February 18th. I go home, I see 3 United Nations officers asking for a permit to enter the house. They were granted a permit for 15 minutes, and for no unknown reason, the soldier asked the UN to evacuate the house. They were sitting in the front yard of the house, so right in front of the tower and right in front of the soldiers who were on the rooftop of the house. And so we walked them back to the car. They got in, turned on the car. My father is in front of me. And for no reason, as I waved by to the United Nations car, one of the soldiers stationed at the tower behind me fires his weapon. And straight to the ground. I thought that I wasn't dying, but I can't feel my legs. And I can't feel anything for that matter. And bit by bit, I watched my life kind of play in a movie, a quick movie in my mind. I thought that now my dad was watching me die. He shoved me into the UN car and held hard, my eyelids and said, you're not going today, you're not going today. And I felt nothing. I just kept looking at him and the blue sky, saying, well, this is my chance. I can escape this not normal living. And then I quickly remind myself that I was only 18. Why should I go now? But by the time I got to the hospital, I felt indescribable amounts of pain, some of which I feel to this very day. But that's when I realized that I wasn't going to die. Fast forward a week later, I wake up for the very first time in my life in a city called Tel Aviv, surrounded by Israeli doctors and nurses, and with my dad in the corner. For the very first time, his descriptions of the Jewish people and the Jewish faith and the things, the forgiveness, and all the concepts that we share were now materializing before my eyes. And I saw that one Israeli shot me, but many Israelis were there to take me to the bathroom, shower me, dress me up, feed me, save my life, and eventually help me walk again. I still have the bullet fragments in my spine, but because of that experience and thanks to my parents, I never have hatred in my heart, because he told me that an opportunity, just think of this as an opportunity. And at the time, I would ask him to leave the room. But today and for the rest of my life, I am reminded of how on point he was and how incredible and how much of a savior he was to me and to all my siblings. We're all 8. I'm the middle child. My oldest brother is a surgeon in Germany. My second oldest is an engineer in Germany. My oldest sister is a doctor in Germany. My younger brother is an engineer in Sweden. I chose the US because I didn't want to go to Europe. There's another story there. And my younger siblings, one is an accountant at a bank in Gaza, and his twin sister, our sister, she's finishing up her graduate school. And my youngest sister, Zana, she is the sweetest sister I could ask for, and she is a very good dentist. So we're all there. We are functioning human beings. We contribute to society and to the world despite a very difficult experience that we all had to go through because we happen to be living in our home, in Gaza Strip, in our city, where we always meant to live. So at the end of this whole experience, I went back. I left the hospital in Tel Aviv, Tel Shomer, and I joined my father in his quest for peace and coexistence, because towards the very end of this whole thing, the withdrawal from the Strip happened. Israel left the settlements, and so we saw the soldiers leaving our house for the first time since September of 2000, one by one, until there were no soldiers. And for the very first time in 5 years, he sprinted upstairs and excitedly and humbly said to all of us, "I told you I was going to get the house back." And he sure did. I watched him stand to be the only victorious party in this whole thing. Victorious because he not only held on to his house and land, but held on to his humanity. And that's the greatest gift that he gave to me. Fast forward years later, I insisted just a year before coming to the US for my education, I attended a summer camp. The first thing I did after leaving the hospital, attending a summer camp in Maine by the name of Seeds of Peace. They bring kids from Israel, Palestine, India, Pakistan, conflicts around the world for the future generations to have some sort of a space where they're able to disagree, but also be able to form a human relationship. This is something most Palestinians and most Israelis, unfortunately, do not have. What we have is what are the medias and the agendas, and we have no neighborly connections, the borders. We're just isolated, even though it has been before where Israelis would go down, Palestinians would go up, shop here, shop there. We know that it happened before in Andalusia, Ottoman Empire, and throughout many eras in history where we were in fact able to coexist despite our differences living in the Holy Land, because that's what the Holy Land is. It's a gift to the children of Abraham. It's not just for one party. I'm from there. My religion tells me that I have to share it with my Jewish cousins and with my Christian brothers and sisters. And that is the message that I have learned and received in Gaza Strip. And I try to educate people about my father's message and about the need for all of us to be able to hear our human experiences, because it is the lack of the human touch that allows for more distrust and more division and more suspicion of one another, because we are not able to express our stories as human beings to one another, because we are either threatened, we don't have the capacity, or. In college, I came back to the US after that summer camp. I went first to Utah. It was a miracle that I convinced him. I said to him, I got myself accepted to a high school in Utah, and his first thing to say was, "What is Utah?" But he agreed, and he took me to the border with Egypt in 2006, summer of 2006, and then that would be fast forward a couple of years. That's when I will learn that that encounter at the border would be my last time to see him on this earth. And I learned the news of losing him when I was a sophomore at Northeastern in Boston. And the following day, I said I am going to write a book about him so I can tell the entire world about what he did, because he deserves to live on. He lives on through me, and now he lives on through everyone who is watching me tonight. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm waiting for Wendy is also going to join us. There she is. So Wendy, I'm leaving it over to you now. Huh?
Okay, thank you very, very much. We have several questions that have come in that I'd like to ask you, but I'm actually going to take the liberty and ask the question first because I've got the mic. What I gleaned so much from your book was the concept of human connection and how important truly human connection is. And one of the lines that I vividly remember and I found very touching was when you came home and you saw that the settlers weren't there, one of the thoughts that you had was empathy for the children, the settlers' children who had to leave, and you felt for their entire world being turned upside down. And I know that you've also attended Seeds for Peace and
Of
Peace, sorry. Um, so I ask you, following that type of need, and I totally understand what you're saying about making that kind of one-on-one connection. What would your recommendation be for being able to move that forward and bring the human face back to the area?
it doesn't have to always be the politicians. They have clearly failed on all levels. We have art, we have culture, we watch similar things, we like sports, and I thought that the form of writing would be one way to go about this. It doesn't always have to be on an official, complicated, complex levels. We can also it's not something that we just hand over to the politicians to accomplish. It's important and we need that, but it also has to be on the level of the people who live there. It is not a conflict where we are clear, obviously, on where we stand on things like borders. This is a conflict where, despite how much we want to separate, we are so much living right next to each other. Whether we like it or not. So it has to be on house to house, family to family, door to door. That concept of being neighborly has got to exist. We can no longer afford to live and know that there are others there, but we don't even see them. So that's it. Because for as long as that's the case, there's just no it's not normal for somebody to write a book about peace, because who I don't even know who they are. And the same for the Israelis. My friend author Yossi Klein Halevi wrote did the similar thing when he wrote letters to my Palestinian neighbor for the first time to me as a reader. I mean, I read it in English, but he also published it in Arabic, telling the Palestinians, telling the world why I go so hard and I fight so hard, because I want to be in the Holy Land, in the West Bank, in my home, in. Now, Palestinians may not agree of the reasons, but because it's told to them as a story, this is my faith, this is what brings me here, it is far less threatening, and quite the contrary. People, because it's the Holy Land, people are bound to embrace it, because as Muslims, as an Arab, I've always known that this land has always been inhabited by people coming in and coming out. It's the Holy Land. And if anyone I've got to really push for the concepts of the Holy Land to stand true, it's the people who actually live there. And that's the children of Abraham, in my opinion.
Thank you. We actually have two similar questions.
And I see comments. Sorry to interrupt. Please help me read the comments, or do as you please. But it's hard for me to also read the questions and comments. But I'd like everyone to know that I'm not ignoring anything.
No, that's what Wendy and I are doing. But Wendy's going to handle it now.
So this is from Arlene Jacobs. She said, "Thank you, Youssef. I taught a course at a local high school some years ago called Sacred Texts. I used the 5 pillars of Islam to compare all religions represented in our class. We found that every religion had a very similar 5 pillars. Did you ever think of that in relation to your association with the Jewish community? We're all more similar than anyone thinks. As an example, the Hajj, next year in Jerusalem, Ramadan, Yom Kippur, or Passover. And another question, what is your reaction to the recent peace accord?"
Okay, so the first question is easy. Yes, times 20. So that's done. It's very similar. I think we have more in common than, I don't take this the wrong way, but we have more in common than we with the Christian faith, in my view, on so many things. And I noticed this to be even more true when I went to Brandeis. It was just natural for me to follow the rules, because things like kosher and were not so, I didn't have to adapt something new, it felt. But nevertheless, we all have things in common. And so that's that. The question about the peace deal. Uh, so I read a book about a human story that took place in Gaza. This deal is the first thing when I saw it or learned of it. Um, I asked myself one question: is it going to improve human lives on the ground for my people? And unfortunately, it didn't take me long to say no, because things didn't change. Things don't appear to be changing. And it somehow the deal says we are doing it because the Palestinians are mentioned in the deal. Mentioned. They talk about them, but they're not involved. They're not there, and the situation on the ground will not change. I still cannot go to Tel Aviv as a Palestinian despite the signing of this agreement. So yes, I want to see peace. In fact, when I was in college, I said 10 years from now, I spoke at J Street, 10 years from now, mark my words, there's going to be some form of alliance because they are talking so much about Iran. And this is exactly, back then people thought I was being cute and peacemaker. But this is now as the case and being happening. And it makes sense. We can only fight for so long. I want everyone to be able to sign peace, but I want that peace to be not just focused on deals and making money but why not help improve human lives on the ground? No one will lose anything there.
Thank you. Next question from Cindy Feldman. Was your father joined by others living under the same conditions in wanting to develop peace?
Could you tell me that again, please?
Was your father, I think, let me just rephrase it. I think what she's asking is people that were living within the same restraints as your dad, was there a larger group that was also seeking peace like your father?
I believe so. I believe so. Even those who disagreed with my father, at heart, I believe that my people are peace-loving people. They taught me to laugh. They taught me to always see the positive. And I believe that that's something we, as two peoples, have in common. That despite the negativity, despite the pain, you've got to stay patient and see the positive side of things. And I've learned that in Gaza. Not the 10 years that I spent in Boston, incredible time that I've had there, but I've learned it in Gaza. And I think that there's something of great value there. My dad had a lot of arguments with many of his colleagues. Palestinian society is very much diverse. There's the secular, the conservative, the leftist, the communist. It's we do politics a great deal of it. And they were always able to disagree and celebrate that. And I saw that as a person, observing things. I was a kid, so the adults, I guess, didn't expect much of me. So I was always just hearing and observing. And I observed some intelligent, incredible, supportive people who have helped make me who I am today. And I'm forever, and I can't wait to unite with them one day. I hope soon. I almost came close this year, but airplanes shut down now.
Yeah, we've all unfortunately stopped flying. Next question. How do you establish good neighborly relations with the Israelis when often they are confronted by attacks from the Gaza Strip?
Again, by increasing the level of true and genuine interaction between the people. For an Israeli, it is far less to go around than it is for a Palestinian. And not all, 4, 6, 7 million of us are walking around with a weapon seeking to harm Israelis. It's always somebody who have lost someone, a house, lost an opportunity. If you look closely, it's never, this is what we want to do. Of course, there's politics. You know more than I do how throughout history how nations went about going, doing, and treating each other. But it's not what we live to do. It's not the case. And knowing that the others just want to kill us, you'll never be able to make peace, because how, of course, how can you make peace with someone who just wants you dead? That's just impossible. I wouldn't, anyone would say the same thing. But I don't think that that's the case. And I don't think we should look at the conflict through those incidents. We should look at the conflict and the Jewish-Israeli-Palestinian experience or situation, if you will, through people like myself and many, many, many others who are every day advocating for peace and reconciliation between Israelis and Palestinians. It only makes sense.
And a question following up on another thought with how did the soldiers treat you? Were they respectful to your family? Were they arrogant? Were they disrespectful?
Well, you'll be the judge of that in the book. I don't want to, it's 5 years. And I have my take on it. My dad has his take on it. They have done things. They were all children, and that's how he treated them, no matter what they did.
And it is one of the reasons why people definitely should read this book, without a doubt. Your statement that we are all descendants of Abraham was very profound. Why not train a core group of Palestinian teachers to teach the idea to Palestinian children? And thank you so very much for all of your insights. And that's from Marsha Witten.
Yeah, there are there. What I do for work, I work at the Middle East Center, where the Palestinian educators, religious educators, professors, they're all there. It's just the lack of the political will that will help translate the work that is being done every day by teachers on both sides. They're out there. And that's all I can say. I wouldn't sit here and tell you something that is not true.
So for our last question, because I do know that Youssef has to go to work after this, and thank him so very much for his time. From Andrew Carmen. So ultimately, it will be up to the politicians. What needs to be done to move the needle? Do you believe that severe measures like boycotts are necessary and needed? United States, or like they were done in the United States or in South Africa. The issue is that serious. This gentleman has a daughter who also went to Brandeis.
Oh, great.
And he's also asking about your opinion on a final solution. Would you be in favor of a one-state situation or a two-state situation? And that's a very big question. So you can take any part of it that you'd like.
I'm in favor of peace and justice for Israelis as much as it is for Palestinians. I'm Palestinian, and I feel that I lack peace and justice. I feel that the Israelis have far more opportunity and choices in life, while Palestinians, regardless of their background or political affiliation, have far less and have far more challenges to overcome. I feel that that is the solution to me. Once the two peoples are truly have access to the same opportunities, are able to be as productive for their own societies as possible, that is what I care about. I'm not concerned with a one state or two state, because even if we live in two states, if we don't like each other, it's just, it's not like we have to cross an ocean to reach that country again. It will take 5 minutes for us to fight again. And if it's one state, so be it, as long as we are able to truly love and respect one another for the benefit of both societies. I believe that that has been the case throughout history before in other forms and maybe perhaps in other locations, but I know that happened. And to live in my lifetime knowing that this is a mere imagination that will never materialize and just impossible, it's just a waste of time because we're all able to go online and read and purchase and have opinions and vote and do all sorts of things. Yet this is, this is too complicated. I don't think it's too complicated. And I feel that the more we do such interactions and engagements here, there, and everywhere, we will get there. It will become a mainstream to have a Palestinian speak at a Jewish community. It will become mainstream to have an Israeli. Just like it's about to happen elsewhere throughout other Arab countries. It will become, it's just the way of life. And I believe we are heading that direction, whether we like it or not.
Thank you so very much.
We all like it.
No, we do like it. I mean, I think that there's nobody here that would not really like to see peace and justice for everyone. So I thank you very, very much, Elise.
I wanted to just say the last question I think is really intriguing. Somebody has asked us, Jan has asked Youssef, what would you like to be doing in 5 years? And let's end with hopefully something optimistic. We are all outside and not wearing masks as well.
That would be good. I don't know, Jan, but I hope I will be very, very, very busy.
That's a good thought. That's a good thought. Well, at least from the JCC, I want to say thank you. The reading of the book kept me quite busy. I just couldn't put it down. And I made sure I carried it wherever I was within my home, because I haven't gone anywhere else, to ensure that I finished it, because it just kept, the buildup was in there. And thank you for taking the time to write your story. I really appreciate it, the viewpoint. And I want to thank you and Wendy and Youssef, you can close with some words.
I guess, again, I would really like to extend my gratitude for you being here this evening and for sharing your vision, and wishing you, and in your current position, working for peace, success, because with your success, we will all be successful. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, everybody. And I might add, I happen to be running for Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner in my district here in Washington, D.C. If you happen to know anybody, please tell them about Yousef Bashir. He is trying to help people and trying to do something productive with his time, in addition to all of the wonderful things he is doing. And thank you so much for having me with you. And thank you. God bless.
God bless, Youssef. Thank you. I'm going to end the webinar now, but thank you to everybody for participating, and especially Youssef and Wendy. I appreciate it. And we will talk. Bye-bye now.